You've raced cars, motorcycles, planes, boats.
I've had 5 broken arms racing motorcycles, and I was lucky. Larry, I'm crazy.
What is your opinion of electric vehicles?
Oh boy, sorry ass. I'm not real fond of electric vehicles. I bought one and didn't want one. You know, being in the media, I could get a new car. I get a new car almost every week to test drive.
Leon had declined the lure of paid reviews for electric vehicles. He chose to use his own money to buy one. That way he could share his unbiased thoughts on the matter, leading our story to take an unexpected turn.
I lost a lot of money. I kept it 3 weeks. Took it back to the dealer, says, take this car. If you're just commuting around town, they're good for around town. If you're long distance, they create anxiety. Just last Thanksgiving alone, here in California, between here and San Francisco, there's a place called Harris Ranch. And there was 1.5 miles of electric cars backed up, waiting and driving back from San Francisco. They couldn't make it to LA. And it takes the average on a fast charger 30 minutes to an hour to charge it up. I mean, batteries have a lot of negative stuff to it. You can't store it for long if it lets it sit. Hard to work on, and they're expensive. Replace a battery in a car, $10,000, $20,000. And plus, another thing, I keep thinking about it, is batteries don't like to be charged fast. You burn them up. If they fast charge you over and over and over again, they'll tell you. They overheat real bad.
In terms of the general public, do you think people are going to back away from this trend?
It's hard to say because in the trailer, a lot of people on the street, and most people on the street felt the way I felt, which is that however you feel about climate change, an EV is better for the planet than a gas-powered car. And I think a lot of the reporters are left-wing, and they are wedded to this climate change narrative and wedded to the idea that EVs will be a solution to climate change. So I'm not sure that a lot of people are going to get good information. It's amazing how ill-informed people are about so many different things. I just did the other day a show on taxes. As we speak, as you know, the Republicans are putting together their budget bill. And for a while, there was some suggestion that wealthy people were going to have their taxes raised. I think even Trump mused about it. He backed away from it, but even he mused about it. A few years ago, Investors Business Daily did a poll to find out how many people knew the percentage of the federal taxes paid by the top 1%. The top 1% pay over 42% of all federal income taxes. The top 1% make about $400,000 or more. They pay 42% or so of the federal income taxes while taking in around 20% of the nation's income.
So 42%, top 1%.
Top 1% pays 42% of all federal income taxes while taking in around 20% of the nation's income. By that measure, they are overtaxed. So Investors Business Daily commissioned a poll to find out how many people were aware that the top 1% paid over 40% of all the federal income taxes. And I'm doing these numbers just generally. About 10 to 20% thought the top 1% paid 1%, maybe 2% of all taxes. Another 20% thought they paid maybe 10%. Another 20% or so thought they paid between 20 and 30%. Bottom line, only around 12% of Americans really knew the top 1% paid 40% or more, which might explain why so many people, particularly on the left, want the so-called rich to pay even more. They're unaware how much they're paying at all. Same thing with police shootings of unarmed black men. I know it sounds like a different topic, but the point I'm making is about the wholesale ignorance about so many different things. When George Floyd died at the hands of that police officer, we had 4 months worth of protests. 25 people were killed. 2,000 police officers were injured. There was about $2 billion of insured property damage, another $1 billion or $2 billion of uninsured property damage. 4 months of protests, and probably about 400 cities all over America, because of an assumption that what happened to George Floyd had to do with his race, even though the lead prosecutor, which is on television, never even implied that what the officer did had to do with George Floyd's race. And the officer wasn't charged with a hate crime. Yet you had all this explosion. So there was a website called policemag.com, CMAG, that asks people who are self-described as very liberal, how many unarmed black men did the police kill in 2019? 50% of the self-described very liberal people thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. 8% thought they killed 10,000. How many did the self-described regular liberals think, you ask? 39% of self-described liberal people thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. 5% thought they killed 10,000. The actual number, according to the Washington Post database, was 11.
Wow.
So that's the gap between what people think is going on in the streets versus what is going on. Same thing with EVs. I think most people, as I said before, I'm a reasonably informed individual, and I just assumed that all in, EVs had to be better for the planet than gas-powered cars. I think most people don't know about the fossil fuel generated energy it takes to make it, to transport it, the stuff that goes into the battery, the humanitarian issues I just now mentioned about kids using their hands to dig this stuff out. I think most people are completely unaware of all these kinds of things. So the answer to your question is, do I think people are going to gravitate towards EVs? I think yes, because they're ill-informed about what really goes on to the whole process of an EV.
How much effort it took for you to figure this out?
Well, I spent a whole year, again, starting from knowing nothing to, by the end of it, being, I think, reasonably knowledgeable about everything that goes into it. It took a whole year. We traveled all around the world to talk to miners, talk to manufacturers, talk to technicians, talk to scientists, talk to climate change scientists. And I think I interviewed altogether about 50 people. So it's a pretty, I think, balanced documentary. It doesn't shove anything down your throat. It doesn't tell you that EVs are bad. I think the title pretty much says it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to buy one, keep one, sell one, or trade it away.
And Larry, you're the one that can actually find the facts and know which ones to trust, which ones not to trust. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, everybody has biases. I'm no different than anybody else, but I like to think I've got a reputation for somebody who tries to think things through and tries to get information before I make a decision. And I'm not afraid to give a point of view that is not consistent with the conservative point of view or a conventional point of view.